Hello, you're very welcome to AFI Weekly here on the Under Centre podcast. Dara here with you, going to be joined by Alex in a couple of minutes' time. We have a huge show to get through this evening. We have 6 games to review, another 3 games to preview this Easter Saturday weekend. I have Alex here with me now. Let me just join him in here. Alex, are you good to talk, sir?
Good evening. Yes, I am. How are you?
Excellent stuff. I am a lot better than I was on Saturday at about 4-5 o'clock in the evening. But how are you?
All good, yeah. Absolutely. Flying.
Excellent. Hopefully the body is healing well.
Yep. All freshened up now. Bit of sea swimming, so it's that,
Good man. Jesus, I just get to go for a walk around the outside of a chocolate factory and just feel guilty for a while. That's all I get to do. Before you came on, like I was mentioning there, we have all 6 games to review, another 3 games to preview. Of course, with the Easter weekend, we have only games on Saturday this week, so there'll be 1 in the Premier Division, 3 in Division 1 to look ahead to, including both myself and yourself back in action with our respective teams as well. Let's get straight into the games on Saturday. We'll start in the Premier Division. That was the Rebels 26, the Cowboys 0. A game that was actually abandoned in the second half due to player injury. An unfortunate injury for Craigavon Cowboys and their right tackle. I had the name here. I'm after losing it. In the meantime, though, while I'm looking for the name, on the Rebel side of things, it was 4 passing touchdowns for QB Sam Doran. 3 of those went to Tommy Breslin, and 1 went to Jack Cronin, continuing his good start to the year as well. Let me just see here. Yes, Ismail. Was it Coresi? I think it's pronounced. I'm terrible at pronunciations. I'm very sorry. An unfortunate knee injury for him. We wish him all the best. Also heard the news that I think there was an injury to a friend of the show and linebacker Jason Duddy. So we wish both of them the speediest of recoveries and hope they're doing well today. But for the games side of things, I guess the way previous weeks have gone, maybe not a surprise, Alex, that the Rebels were able to come out on top.
Yeah, I think the Rebels have sort of really settled into their like who they are as a team. They've sort of they picked up from that difficult opening game against UCD, and they've really sort of built a solid foundation for themselves, and really put themselves about putting up some good scores while keeping it tight at the back. So yeah, I think like they'll be fairly pleased with this outing. Obviously, you never want to see games abandoned at any point for any reason, but it's obviously understandable in this case why it happened. So look, they'll be having 4 passing touchdowns on the day for Sam Dorn is great. He's getting more and more confident as the games, as he gets more games under his belt, which we kind of expected. And it seems like he's really settled into the offense now. I think the Rebels were out without one of their running backs as well, and Andre Barlafa. He was off representing the Irish team in one of the European flag football tournaments. So we shout out to the Celtic Tigers on that. So they were down. They weren't a full complement to the Rebels, and they still looked impressive. Weren't really missing a beat. The Cowboys, on the other hand, awful to see an injury like that, where your player has to be taken away in the ambulance. Hopefully, not too serious, as we said. But yeah, and a team that probably can't really afford to be losing multiple players, as you also mentioned, Jason Duddy getting injured on the day. A team that can't really afford to be losing more players on top of the ones that they've lost from last year already. So, like it's a real struggle for them, as we've seen on offense, not really being able to move the ball against the teams in the sort of upper half of the league. So more injuries is just not something they'll want to see. And yeah, you fear for them if they start going down more and more bodies. Like it's not that they don't have the squad to compete in the games. It's more that just it's inexperience that's replacing these guys. Like there's few Cowboys more experienced than Jason Duddy, their linebacker, whoever you're filling in, replacing Jason Duddy with, it's going to be someone who's less experienced. So like that's a major concern for them, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Going into this game, I'm sure, and look, again, don't want to disrespect them where they thought they were, but I don't think they were going down to Dublin maybe expecting to get a victory. Keeping it close and then seeing what happens is definitely the right mindset to have, especially with, a perennial Shamrock Bowl team in the Rebels. No matter who has left or anything like that, there's still a lot of that team there that is quite experienced in going to Shamrock Bowls and winning them. On the Rebels side, like you said, it's great to have Sam Doran now firmly get his feet under the table. A good game against the Panthers last week, a good game this weekend against the Cowboys. These are the things that'll get him used to being now QB1 in Dublin. Yeah, for the Cowboys, yeah, it's tough with the injuries. Two serious enough injuries. Speaking to Jason, I know he said that he was looking to get back in time for their Panthers game, which is going to be a crucial game. And that those are the sorts of games that are going to define their season. It's not this game against the Rebels. It wasn't the game a couple of weeks ago against the Trojans. It's going to be against the Panthers and the Vikings. And they've done one part of that job already by beating the Vikings once. They're going to have to do it again. And then also they'll hope to beat the Panthers too. So, I guess it would have been a perfect day if, the game had finished, there wasn't so many injuries, and maybe they were able to execute a few things on offense. But, and I will get into this with the other teams, with some other teams as well when we get into a review, because I want to sort of ask your opinion if where we are in the stage of the season where, there's a few teams again this week that have failed to put points on the board. I know. Are you still sort of giving them the grace period of, look, we're still at the start of the season, or are you now starting to get into the, come on, we've got to start getting a move on phase in terms of, because if you're not scoring points, you're not winning games.
Yeah. I mean, at this stage of the season, you would expect to certainly see more cohesiveness in the offense for all teams, really. So you kind of can expect. I would think you would expect to see more scores coming in. Now, obviously, it is very much matchup dependent, and the Rebels' defense is, an elite unit in that league. So it's not as if it's a shocker that they've not put up many points. But you'd at least from there, now I haven't had the chance to watch the tape, so you would at least from their point of view want to be seeing some more offensive output. Like, it doesn't have to, maybe it's not always scoring, you can always be unlucky, get into the red zone, have a turnover, like blown assignment or something, and you just miss and you don't manage to score. But are they putting together some more drives? Are they putting together drives of 8-9 plays rather than 3 and out every time? That's the sort of progression you want to see. As I said, I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I think that's more what the Cowboys will want to be focusing on. It's not really, you can score. I think did they score against the Trojans?
No,
they didn't score against Trojans. So, like, to date, their only touchdown in the league is a 40-yard scramble by Owen Hughes on a play where they were trying to get 3 yards to get a first down, and just a blown coverage, and they've bursted and scored. That's that doesn't point to cohesive offense either, like a breakaway play going for a long touchdown. You'd want to more be seeing drives put together than necessarily scoring plays. Obviously, both are important and both typically go hand in hand, but that's probably something that they'll be trying to nail down, getting more drives. Maybe scripting drives more would help help with that. But it's always difficult. It's a difficult league, and when you go up against a defense like the Rebels or a team like the Trojans, you're going to be up against it, and they found the going hard so far.
Yeah. And I'm fully aware of the irony of me asking a player who plays for a team that scored 68 points at the weekend whether or not teams not scoring is an issue right now. So, but I still stand by the question. Next up for both teams, the Rebels are traveling up to Belfast to take on the Trojans on the 10th of May. Then one day later, the Cowboys are actually in Belfast themselves taking on the Knights. So a bit of a break for both teams to, help bodies recover, also maybe get some stuff done in training, hopefully, if the guys can get things going ahead for their next few games. Will we stick Premier Division, or do you want to just stick by days?
I think stick division. I'll go by the division. Doesn't really matter the days too much. Yeah.
All right, good. Well, then moving on to Sunday's games, we'll start with the Belfast Knights and their victory, 45-0 at home to the UL Vikings. The Knights scorers, we can finally say the Knights scored a touchdown without Dottie McShane catching the ball, because Marty Caskey provided 2 of those touchdown catches from QB Zach McDowell. The other 2 were, of course, to you-know-who, Dottie McShane. Harry Salt added 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Dottie also had 6 extra points and a field goal in the game. For the Knights, again, despite from some of the tape that I've watched, despite some drives and some plays actually, being quite progressive and getting down the field, they weren't able to score. The Knights continue their extremely impressive start to the year. Despite the absence of their QB, Liam Moore, Zach McDowell has done a very, very good job deputizing there. Alex, this game sort of, they went up early and they never looked back. But the fact that they're able to, put up 45 points against another Premier Division side without their starting QB, there's some real positivity there in the Knights camp, and I'm sure there's real excitement about what this team can do this year.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying it. Like, scoring 45 points is fantastic day's output for through the air and 2 on the ground. Like, you've got sort of showing you're not just one-dimensional, as one-dimensional as the Knights have been this season with the McDowell to McShane connection. But yeah, it's been a fantastic start to the season for them. It's going to be interesting to see when Liam Moores is fit to be back. Are they going to be a bit hesitant to put him in? Like, is there not saying that there's like QB controversy out in there? Obviously, Zach's a great wide receiver in his own right as well, so I'm sure they'd love to have him back. But there might be a little bit of thought of playing the hot hand. Like, Zach at the moment isn't really putting a foot or a hand more pertinently wrong in while he's been the signal caller. So maybe you don't if it's not broke, don't fix it. But yeah, the Knights have been massively impressive this season, and they've really put themselves in with a great shot of being in the playoffs, and they've probably put themselves forward and see themselves as, we could be one of the teams who is playing in that Shamrock Bowl. It's been a while since the Knights have been in a Shamrock Bowl. I can't even cast my mind back to when the last time is, but yeah, I no doubts that's what they're eyeing right now.
I think they were still going by
Carrick Fergus Knights
by that stage. Yeah.
Carrick
I have
Fergus,
a quick look. See, the last time the Knights were.
Yeah, no problem. In the meantime, I'll chat about the
2017.
Oh, there you go. Right,
2017. Losing 12-6 to the Dublin Rebels.
Yeah, so it's been a while. That'd be great for the Knights. Like, Belfast football is free scoring at the minute. We've sort of seen those 2 teams in Belfast really putting on a clinic. It's the place to be if you want to see points going in this season. Obviously, the Admirals game, excluding the Knights Admirals game. But yeah, they've been massively impressive. On the Vikings side of things, yeah, again, 0 points. Another game, 0 points. It's really difficult for them at the minute. That matchup in particular is tough for the Vikings. It's a long journey up to Belfast, and then you're playing against a really hard-nosed defensive line who are going to put it on you from the very first snap. So, like, they've clearly done well there. Again, not one I've seen tape of, but you've suggested that they've put together some drives, so that is positive. It's encouraging. As we said about the Cowboys and the Rebels game, this isn't the game that the Knights or that the Vikings were going into thinking we're going up to Belfast and we're getting a scalp here. You know, they probably wanted to get a score more than anything else. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened for them today, but maybe there is signs of positivity there. It doesn't get any easier for them. I think they're facing UCD this weekend as well. So, you know, the hits keep on coming, but they just think they know that they're a young side, but they do have experience around them, and I hope that they just know that they have to just keep picking themselves up off the mat and focus on when, you know, focus on when their big games are. The rematch against Craigavon at the end of the season, that's going to be the key one for them. Can they get some scoring drives put together before then, so they know that they have that within them to be able to put up some scores and possibly nick that game and save themselves from relegation?
Yeah. I just wonder if I'm just thinking out loud here, because historically, now you might be better at answering this than me, but would you know the sort of history of UL when it comes to after exams? Are they a team that tends to lose a few players? Because I'm just looking at their schedule. So after the exam season is that rematch against Craigavon.
Yeah.
And also, so they entertain Cork and Craigavon, added into trips up to Belfast to face the Trojans, and then they travel to Dublin to take on the Rebels there too. So, you know, I'm not too sure what it's going to be like after exam season, what the numbers are going to be, but especially having that crucial return game against Craigavon after, I'm sure they'll try and see if they can convince as many guys as they can to stay aboard for the end of the season, even for that game, which is the 1st of June. So if they can try and just get that get over the line and try and secure safety for another year.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. I mean, as with all college teams, they do suffer after exam season. I know just from refereeing them, they have a Canadian safety who's a particular highlight player, I think, on their defense. Is he over just for the college year? Does he, you know, go back as soon as those exams are done? That's a question. They don't have as many stalwarts as they had in previous years to kind of stick around and kind of lead by example, staying and playing. They obviously still have, you know, several, you know, Will Campbell and Owen Fahey and among others. So, you know, I would like to think that they'll still have the team there, the squad there, and their key players won't leave. But I think you'd probably be fooling yourself if you said that they won't lose anyone after exam season. So it will make it even more difficult.
Yeah, it is going to be tough, and let's just hope they can get a few things going before that exam season. Like you mentioned, the next game for them is this Saturday against UCD in UL, so it doesn't get any easier for them. For the Knights, they are going to they are going, to Derrimore to take on the Trojans on the 3rd of May for a Belfast derby. So that's going to be an absolutely cracking game, one to look forward to for sure. The last game in the Premier Division to look at is a defending champions UCD. They headed down to Cork and came home with a very convincing 42-6 win in the end, despite Cork keeping it very close in the first half. I think it was only 8-0 at halftime to Cork, or to UCD.
UCD,
But in the second half, they were able to make a few changes to pull away. Scoring wise for the Admirals, Jay Kennedy threw a passing touchdown to Michael Halliday. For the UCD, Aaron Mooney had 3 passing touchdowns, 2 of which to Tom Donovan. One of them, if you haven't already seen on their socials, go and watch. I think he took out about half of the Admirals' defense on his way to scoring that touchdown.
That's my
The other,
MVP.
that's your is your MVP. Aaron also threw a passing touchdown to Jefferson Freeman. Ty O'Connor came in towards the end and threw a passing touchdown to Jack O'Riordan. Tom McAniff and Aaron Mooney also pitched in with rushing touchdowns as well. UCD continue to go from strength to strength. Alex, they don't show any indication that they're going to slow down anytime soon. Even despite, the travel down to Cork, the tight first half that they had, they were able to pull away, like I mentioned, in the second half. On the Admiral side of things, we talked about it last week where I said if they lose this game, I wouldn't be concerned. I'm not concerned in the sense of I think that obviously there's easier games to come from them. There's games that they're going to be able to win. I am starting to get concerned about the offensive output a little bit. I think that they only scored the 1 touchdown again to go with the 2 safeties in Belfast, and then it was just the single touchdown as well against the Trojans. Yep. We need to start, I think, and I'm sure, look, Brendan Keller will say the same thing to us right here now as well. He says we need to start getting consistent drives together that finish in touchdowns rather than stalling.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It kind of was the case of the haves and the have-nots in terms of scoring this week in the SBC. You've seen the teams that have shown that they can score versus the teams that haven't really shown that they can score, and it's been very lopsided results across the board. We kind of suggested that this was going to be a particularly difficult game for the Admirals, given that they had just put in a really hard graft against the Belfast Trojans, and now they were going to be facing, an even bigger test in UCD. So again, they played to the Admiral script, keep it tight, keep it close, only 8-0 at halftime, but no real surprise then to see the floodgates open in the second half when bodies are probably battered, and after you go 2, maybe 3 scores down, the heads inevitably drop, because as we've seen, the Admirals aren't going to be putting up 3 scores of their own in reply to UCD. So once they're 3 scores down, they might as well be 10 scores down essentially. So that's really disappointing, really difficult for them. They're going to have to do something, because we have suggested that we're not really panicking. 0-3, it kind of, they have been through some difficult games. Like probably they've played the top 3 teams in the league at the minute, who have a combined 1 loss between them from 9 games played. So it's not like they're losses that we were not expecting, but at the same time, if they want to be in the playoffs, they're in a really difficult spot now. And the Rebels currently occupy that spot. They're 2-1 with a 16 point difference, whereas the Admirals are 0-3 on -48. Yeah, and it's difficult to turn around that momentum within a season to work your way up and get that 4th spot. Because it's going to be really difficult for them to get in, but it's certainly not impossible. They're going to have to pick their heads up, but we need to see some offensive output. Their next game might be the Tonic. I think they play the Panthers next, who have had their offensive struggles of their own and are sitting just 1 spot above them in their table. We're going to have to see more than just a win against the Panthers, I'd imagine. 12-0, 8-0, 12-0, not really going to cut it for me. You're going to have to break free here and put some serious, points as well as a win in to, I think, to show to us that you're going to even really deserve the playoffs, let alone make them. I think that's something we've got to see.
Yeah, that game now between the Rebels and Cork is going to take place on the 17th of May in MTU.
Mm-hmm.
And that's absolutely crucial. Both teams get one more game before they play each other. Like you mentioned, Cork are going to come up to Dublin to take on the Panthers, whereas the Rebels then the following week take on the Trojans in Belfast. So, and then they face each other, and that could already be a fourth place decider if Cork cannot win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a short season, and these head-to-head matchups matter so much in terms of the final standings. So yeah, so that's going to be an absolutely key one. Looking at UCD, I mean, what more can really be said about them? 42 points, and what 34 of those coming in the second half. So they did struggle in the first half, which may be a little bit of a surprise, but that as I did I did say last week, there's no going to Cork and playing an easy game. And despite a 42-6 scoreline, I don't think those UCD lads will be like, oh yeah, easy game. They did come up against some adversity in that first half. The Admirals played really well, but once the floodgates opened, I said that was kind of it. So again, they'll be really happy with their output. They're scoring points for fun. They're winning games. At a bit of a canter. So yeah, just more of the same from UCD, and we'll say there's not really going to be a whole lot different to be said about them until we start seeing them in July in the playoffs and see how they're looking then.
Yeah, absolutely. And even past that, maybe even just wait until the Shamrock Bowl and seeing how they are then, because yeah, it's hard to see any team that can stop it, because like that, the Knights were only able to put up 11 points. The Trojans were only able to put up 13 against the same Admirals defense. Now, I'm not going to say it's exactly the same man for man, because I cannot put my hand up and say it was the exact same, personnel, but the fact that UCD were then able to sort of break away and score multiple times just shows that they, like you mentioned, they are the haves at the moment. They have the players, they have the coaches, they have the scheme in place that no team has an answer for right now. And look, without putting a bad luck curse on them, I don't see how that's going to stop next week or this coming weekend when they go up against UCD or UL, I should say. But we'll get into that when we do our previews. We'll go to Division 1. There was nothing of significance on Saturday in Division 1, so we just go straight to Sunday's game, will we?
I know.
All right then. Saturday in Castleknock. The Dublin Rhinos 22, the Loud Mavericks 68. On the Rhino side of things, Ethan Foster threw a passing touchdown to David Rubenia. Craig Usher had a rushing touchdown. Carmen Bezanchu, I'm really sorry, Carmen. I know you told me how to pronounce it. I forgot. Had a pick six following pretty hard hit, I must say, on tie to send that ball up in the air, landed perfectly in Carmen's hands, and he still had a bit to go to the end zone for a big D end. Fair play to him for making it. Greg Usher and Ethan Foster also had 2-point conversions on the day too. On the Mavericks side of things, Ty Henry had just the 6 passing touchdowns, 3 to Nathan Hardy, 1 to Alan Minto, Finn O'Donovan, Brendan Sims. Grant Shute also chipped in with 2 rushing touchdowns, and Brendan Sims also had a kickoff return touchdown as well. Now, for anyone that wasn't at the game or didn't see any tape, let me give you a quick run through of the beginning of the game, because it's interesting. So I can't remember. Did you win the toss or did we win the toss?
You won the toss and deferred.
We and deferred. Okay, so that was the first wrong decision of the day. No, money miss. But so yes, the ball was kicked off to the Mavericks. Sorry, Mavericks. Sorry. And Mavericks go up the field, score touchdown, score the 2 points. Yeah. They kick it off for one of the longer onside kicks I've ever seen in my life. Recover it, score 2 point, 16-0. They then kick an onside kick recovered by a certain long-haired, beautiful man to my side. Am I right? Was that you?
Yep.
It was
Yep.
you.
That was, yeah.
You also scored the first 2 points, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you did. Go up the field, score, and convert the 2 point. 24-0. First 3 drives. The Rhinos offense haven't even gotten their hands on the ball yet at this point. Eventually we do. We drive up the field. We score. We don't get the 2 points, so 24-6. We then kick off, and your brother decides that he's going to run it in for a touchdown, and you score the 2 point, 32-6. And absolutely crazy start to the game. Absolutely clinical from you guys. I put my hands up and say, look, listen, you obviously knew what you wanted to do at the start of the game. It all worked, and basically you had that game won in the first quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like the onside kick thing, to speak to that, we kind of, in our tape, had sort of seen that you kind of only had 2 guys at the front line, and they weren't big guys either. So we kind of just put it that we figured that if we could send 2 guys out to block them, we've got 3 returners who have about 20 yards between where the ball becomes legal and where your next guys were. So we did sort of target that and say, if we can just do that early until you adjust, that we might be able to get up a good few scores before you get the ball, which turned out to happen. But important thing to note as well, on that first kickoff return, like the opening kickoff return, Brendan went over on his ankle. His ankle is like sprained to the point where his right ankle is twice the size of his left ankle at the moment. He cannot walk. But being Brendan, continued to play probably 60% of that game and got on the score sheet twice. I credit that to me because he saw me scoring a 2-point conversion and he was like, there's no way I'm letting my brother score more points than me in this game. So he was like, strap me up, give me the ibuprofen, going back out there. So fair play to him for the grit. Yeah, look, offensively for us, everything just worked today. Like it was clinical. Any sort of little mistakes that were made in the Eagles games were tidied up in the training sessions between, and from tape work and everything, Ty had us ready to go. Speaking on from your side of the things, I think the Rhinos played as well as you can for a team that lost 68-22. That offense really gave us some troubles. Two great touchdown drives and some other drives that were pretty good as well. Just didn't go the full length of the field. So he did some pretty good things on offense and stopped their defense. We would have obviously liked the shutout. It wasn't going to happen anyway because Ty was going to throw his token pick six. So we knew that going into the game, that's just going to happen. So on the defensive side, we were kind of like, well, let's not concede any on defense. But fair play to you, you punched it in twice there as well. So at least I think there's certainly silver linings that you'll take from that into the rest of the season. And you're probably unlikely to come up against a team that just happened to have everything work out perfectly. Like everything just clicked. The onside kicks clicked. I blocked the punt. I scored a 2-point conversion. Sort of all sorts of wild things were happening, just happened perfectly in our favor, bar probably the pick six. So like we were obviously massively happy with our effort on things. And like from your side, as I said, I don't think you performed particularly badly on any facet of the game, but like offensively certainly had us up against it. So that's my point of view on it anyway, Dara. I don't know if you have any more to add.
Yeah, well, look, listen, when your punter doesn't have to do anything in a game, it's not a good look on us. We weren't able to get you off the field. Obviously, the only time there was any sort of turnover on downs was that pick six. We weren't good enough on defense on the day, and we all knew that. I think that, you know, we still have, due to injuries and just unavailability at the moment, we do have a lot of rookies on defense playing probably more than they should. Nothing against the guys. They're talented guys. They're going to be really, really good, but they're just not ready for full-time sort of reps probably on defense. They probably should be getting, drip fed more in so that they can get more comfortable, and being thrown into a situation like this is not ideal. But I still have to say they still performed admirably. I can't speak that word. And they still tried till the end. It's very easy to drop your head. It's very easy to lose your head. And, we've seen it in things before, and we didn't actually touch on it, but we saw the video of it in another game in the Premier Division where, guys are losing their heads and doing late hits on players for one reason or another, So it was important to keep the head. We have to make sure that this was only a blip in the season, that this is the worst that the season gets. I sort of liken it to our game against the Cowboys last year. When we lost, I think it was 42 or 46-0 at home. And we all had to do a bit of soul searching as a team. We all had to really sort of think about, what do we want from this year and what do we want to achieve, and are we a good team? And if we are, we have to start proving it. And if that was a turning point in that season, we have to use this game as a turning point as well. We're lucky we get the chance to do that straight away. We don't have to wait a few weeks for another game. We get another chance this Saturday, and we're going to make sure that we right any wrongs. We've already been looking at the tape. We already have training scheduled for this week. We have call scheduled for this week to go through what we need to change and what we need to improve on. And because it's an important stretch of games after this Stags game, we have, two teams that are going to be going for playoffs with us in terms of the Eagles and the Crusaders. We have them both away before we welcome the Cowboys at home, and then finish up at home to the Minotaurs. So, we just have to make sure this is the very worst of the season, and it's nothing like this is going to happen again. And I'm pretty confident that that's what's going to happen, that we will right any wrongs that happen, and I love the chance. I love the fact that we get the chance to do it Saturday. I love that we can get a quick turnaround and just to right any wrongs straight away. Next game is like I just said, I've just said it again and again and again for the last 2 minutes. Rhinos at home to the Stags this Saturday. Yourselves are heading down to Wexford to take on the Eagles. And we'll preview that game in a couple of minutes. But before we do that, let's talk about the Wexford Eagles and their victory against the Kildare Crusaders down in Gorey on Sunday by 28 points to 22. Doran Taylor threw one passing touchdown to Luke Fitzpatrick. Doran also had 2 rushing touchdowns, a Trevor Smith pick 6 to go with Terry Carey with 2 extra points as well on the day. Does that make sense? I don't think that makes sense for 28. Maybe it was two extra points, like two points. I think that was meant to be. So I apologize for that. On the Crusader side of things, Nathan Purcell had 2 receiving touchdowns. Wello had a rushing touchdown. TJ Cuppard and Nathan Purcell also had a 2-point conversion each on that. A huge victory for the Eagles, their first of the year, for new head coach Ross McCooey. For me, we talked about it last week, Alex, as well, that this game was going to help me figure out what team the Crusaders are. I've been struggling sort of to figure out what sort of team they are. I'm still confused, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, it's an interesting one. This one result. I mean, it's close. I think we kind of suggested that last week. That it was going to be close. It's only a score in it. So it's not like they were totally outclassed or anything. You know, the Eagles are a solid outfit. They've only played 2 other games, and it was against the Minotaurs who'd come down from last year and ourselves. So that 0-2 probably wasn't a real reflection of where they were, whereas the Crusaders had their 2 victories had been against the Stags and the Giants. They were probably on the other half of the table. So it was kind of a false sort of 2-1 team going in against an 0-2 team. They weren't really true reflections, I think. And the Eagles were probably itching to prove that they're better than an 0-2 record, and went out there, with plenty of motivation. I think they've got a really good offense, the Eagles, as well. They've got some great players. They're like Luke Fitzpatrick, we've known for a number of years now. He's a real talent and can take the ball to the house at any point. And I've been pretty impressed with Doran Taylor as well at QB. He's really got some legs on him, and he gave us some troubles up in Armagh. We were playing there in the home game, and I'm sure he'll be looking to give us troubles again this Saturday. So not really surprised by the result too much. The Crusader side, yeah, I mean, disappointing for them. But when you think of the guys that they're down, like offensively, they're really relying on it's the same guys we see every week. It's Wello gets a rushing touchdown, and Jordan is passing to Nathan Purcell there. So there's they don't seem to have a whole pile of targets and weapons for Jordan there. Again, I haven't seen the tape of it. I don't know whether any big turnovers or anything either. It just seemed like it was a pretty even game that the Eagles were just able to come out on top with by their pretty competent offense that they were able to put out there. I would imagine that they limited the Crusaders' possessions as well. Again, with them, they are quite a run-heavy team, so they're able to run the clock down and limit the amount of possessions in a game. So it's possibly why we saw ourselves. We put up less of a score against them. They were able to limit possessions by taking up plenty of time when they've got the ball offensively. So maybe that's what happened. The Crusaders didn't even get enough chances to go up and beat them. But yeah, I don't know what much more I can say without having seen the tape on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean, and yeah, it is a strange one. Because the Crusaders are 2-2 here now. They're no way in any way out of any playoff contention or anything like that. In fact, they're right in it. They still, have their own fate in their hands. They know what they need to do. They obviously have games up against the Rhinos and the Mavericks coming up, as well as another game against the Giants and. What was the other? The Stags, I think. No, the Vipers. Play the Vipers as well. So there is winnable games in that. There's also losable games in that. So, losing tight ones like this is definitely going to frustrate them. And I'm sure if you were to talk to any of the Crusaders guys, they would say they left points out on the field on Sunday. For the Eagles side of things, for a team, and Alex, you can attest, having already played them, that, they were a team that from the first 2-3 games, they looked like they struggled for numbers, but they haven't half put in really, really good efforts to, win games. And now the efforts that they're putting in is coming to fruition now with wins on the board, with the first, obviously, this last Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a battling side. There's no question about that. You've been in a game against the Eagles after you've played it. You generally have the bruises on your body to tell you that you've played against the Eagles. Like they're a tough physical side. And yeah, I think it's they just brought it to the Crusaders and were able to come out on top in that one. I think they not to say that the Crusaders by any means are a soft side or anything, but I think the Eagles probably just out physical them on the day and just brought the fight to them rather than waiting to take on the Crusaders offense and try and counterpunch with it. I think they just took the fight to the Crusaders and managed to overcome them.
Yeah, and the crucial thing I haven't mentioned yet that with this game is now the Eagles hold the tiebreaker too, which could be absolutely crucial for who finishes third or fourth, who finishes fourth or fifth. We don't know, and at the end of the season, so that could be so important. Sorry, excuse me, when it comes to deciding placings at the end of the regular season. Next games, I mentioned the Eagles entertain the Mavericks in Gorey this Saturday, and the Crusaders have a couple of weeks break before they take on the Rhinos in Newbridge on the 11th of May. Actually, I think that was the 10th of May. I think it's the Saturday that they play that game. Yeah, sorry, the 10th of May, not the 11th. The 10th of May they play on the Saturday in Newbridge. The last game of the weekend to wrap up here and have a look at it is the Causeway Giants 12, the Westmead Minotaurs 16. The Minotaurs continue their perfect start to the year. They are now 4-0. Yes, 4-0.
Yep.
Despite having a huge scare put on them by the Giants. Giants were leading 6-0 at halftime. They had Ben Smith had two receiving touchdowns, one from Nathan Chapman, one from Jake McCoy. On the Minotaur side of things, Sean McCormick threw a passing touchdown to Cottle Dunn. Rafa Montero had a rushing touchdown. Jay Bruton had extra points. And then craziness ensued on the second Giants touchdown where it wasn't a kick was blocked. Sorry, it was a 2-point attempt.
No, it was 14-12 to the Minotaurs, and the Giants were going for two to tie it up.
Yeah. The pass was intercepted. It was then brought, I think, was it fumbled or pitched backwards?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I kind of half seen the tape, but I'm not too sure. But in the end, Owen Duffy was the one to run it in for the Minotaurs to give them their own 2-point, which gave them that 16-12 advantage. The Giants had a chance at the end of the game to try and win. They actually forced the Minotaurs to punt, I think, with about a minute left. But unfortunately, a roughing the kicker call on the punt stopped them from getting the ball back, which gave the Minotaurs a new set of downs, which means they could run out the clock and, let's be real, escape Lyon Park with the victory. And they'll probably say the same thing too, that they escaped.
Yeah, it wasn't even a roughing the kicker, I think it was a running into the kicker.
Into the kicker, that's what it was, exactly.
If you're going to commit that penalty, at least rough them up as well.
The Minotaurs, like I say, they're 4-0, perfect start to the year. Probably their poorest performance to date. They would definitely have expected to do better up against the Giants. The Giants, for their own credit, played doggedly all game. Unfortunately, weren't able to come out with the win. They unfortunately now are 0-3, and like that, Alex, they're 0-3 with a points difference of -17. That just shows how close all their games have been. They just haven't been able to turn these defeats into wins yet this year. But yeah, another tough one for the Giants.
Yeah, 100% a tough one to take. I think even in sort of talking to some Giants guys, I think they kind of said that before the game, where they might have even taken a 12-16 scoreline, but okay, looks like looks like we put up a pretty good scoreline. But on the day, then you're sort of like you feel worse than if they had just beaten you 30, 40 to 6 or whatever. Because you feel like it was just there and you just couldn't do it. I mean, the Giants, for their part, played very well. Like probably their best game of the season, and they played well in Kildare as well. But again, narrowly getting defeated. But this one, I think the opening drive of the game, they went down and scored, and then they held the Minotaur scoreless for the entire first half. I think they're just defensive schemes and everything. They just adjusted and obviously watched a lot of tape on the Minotaurs and really just adjusted to what they were doing. And then I think once when the Minotaur scored, it all went a bit mad. I think even the Minotaur second touchdown, they were just attempting to run at the clock, and they reeled off a 70 or 80 yard Russian touchdown to put them those two. Well, the full 8 points up, and then, as we said, it kind of got mad toward the end. But an exciting game, no doubt. The Giants will be really kicking themselves. They're 0-3, and you nearly feel that in some ways that they've beaten themselves as much as other teams have beaten them in some games this year. Really, just they need to just, like, so many things where it's a bounce of the ball could have gone another way. They could be sitting at 2-1 or something like that, They'll be really cursing themselves, but they don't really have time in this league to sort of sit around and lick your wounds, really, either. They've just got to sharpen themselves and pick themselves up and be like, right, we have to go again. We've got to pick up wins here if we want this to be a positive season. We want to finish with a winning record and maybe have a chance of going into the playoffs. They're going to just have to forget about the three games that they've played well in, but have ultimately lost. So they're doing things. Don't want to say they're doing things exactly right, but they're on the right path. It's not as concerning as some of the teams that we've mentioned in the SBC that aren't scoring at all. They're doing things. They're getting scores. They're just not being able to finish. That's got to be their focus, I suppose, now. Looking ahead to the rest of the season for them. And then for the Minotaurs, look, you got out. You may have got away with one there. I don't know, was it a case of overlooking the Giants? I doubt that, because they've got a decent enough break for their next game. It's not like they're playing us in their next game in the Mavericks, but that's not until May. So I don't think it was a sort of a look ahead spot in that way. Where you can sometimes see that if they're playing the game a big match the very next weekend, maybe they could have overlooked them, but that doesn't really make sense when you factor in that they're not playing for another month. So I'm not exactly sure what it was on their side. The coaches will use it as a coaching point, I'm sure, like a big teaching moment, being like, we can't switch off. This is why we gotta practice our execution 100%. It'll probably be a great learning point for them, and probably be really, like, it'll ultimately turn into a positive, this close game, because the coaches will be really able to hammer home and do some film review where they're able to sort of hammer and motivate lads to keep going, like, every game, no matter who the opponent is, so that they're not in this position again. And ultimately they're 4-0, so they won't care too much how they got there, but this one was certainly scary.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, next up for the Minotaurs is a trip to Dundalk to take on the Mavericks on the 11th of May. Is that actually in Dundalk as well?
That is actually in Dundalk. Yeah. Yes, in Dundalk Rugby Club.
So your unofficial home opener.
Yes, I think we're even getting to use the first pitch, which has always been banished.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why we have to move, because the pitch that we usually use has been renovated. So we might even be in slightly fancier ground, pitch anyway. But it will be in the Rugby Club for sure.
Very good. And the Giants now, they have a week's break. They're going to be traveling to New Forge, I'm guessing, to take on the Stags. on the 3rd of May. I know we're a bit over time. We'll go through these games sort of quickly for this week. The Vikings entertain UCD on Saturday. I want to make a case for UL. I'm struggling.
Yeah. The case for UL is
nothing against.
Please score.
Yeah. Like it's nothing against UL. It's just the sheer power of UCD. The sheer, like, I just, like you mentioned there, it's about the sort of little wins they can get. It's about scoring. It's about stopping UCD on drives. It's about trying to, just trying to get things rolling to make sure you're in a position for the other games coming up this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the UCD side's a machine. I mean, I don't know if you noticed when you're watching league pool footage of like games in Division 1, our own games, or even games between anyone. Usually, if you look at who's viewed it, there's probably about 3 UCD members in there that are watching Stags versus Vipers from week 3 of Division 1. They're just a different beast. They are so prepped that they'll know what UL are going to do probably before UL fully know what they're going to do. So I can't see anything other than a emphatic UCD win.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one, for sure. We'll move on because unless there's anything else you want to add to this game, but I can't really see much else. It's unfortunately, it's going to be a nice Easter weekend for UCD, and I'm sure that bus journey home after the game is going to be some crack for them as well.
The University Derby, the Ultras for UL might be out, though. They might at least give them a bit of animosity. There might be flares thrown at buses and stuff like that. All that sort of stuff we expect to see. But other than that, not much to talk about.
No, and that's the tough thing. But hey, look, listen. Like I said, this isn't going to define their season games against UCD. It's get ready for that return game now against Craigavon and see what you can do in that one. In Division 1, like we mentioned, 2 games. The Rhinos are at home to the Stags on Saturday. The Stags traveling down following their 2 defeats from their opening 2 games. The Rhinos, like we said, looking to bounce back after their defeat on Saturday against the Mavericks. I kind of already alluded to it when we were reviewing the game from this past week, but for me personally, just looking forward to getting and playing again. Looks like I'm playing center. Hooray! Woo!
Hooray!
That's so fun. But yeah, no. Look, listen. It's not going to be an easy game. We have to prove that we deserve to win games like this. We have to prove that we can be a good team again. Like I mentioned, we're at the same point in our season as we were last year when we lost to the Cowboys. We went and we played another team from the north in the Giants when we went up there and beat them after that game. So we're going to have to do it again against the Stags this week. But, I guess, Alex, from an outsider's point of view, from seeing bits of Stags, from seeing the Rhinos and stuff like that, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it's probably a tough one for the Stags. They're going in like against a wounded animal who are sort of ready to come out fighting. So yeah, I think for Yi there's clear motivation there. Stags obviously have their own motivation. They're still looking for their first win in club history and going down and getting a scalp that maybe they think that there might be certain heads have maybe dropped on the Rhino side, and they think maybe we can take advantage of that. So they won't be going into this game with any sort of foregone conclusions in their head. I think they'll travel down and think, yeah, look, let's see if we can punch some holes as well. But yeah, it should be an interesting one for sure. As I said, I think you guys offensively can really do some damage. So I do think that there'll certainly be scoring on the table for you there. And I do think that the Stag side have proved that they can put up some points as well in the games that they've played. You know, they've not been totally one-sided. So maybe they kind of think to themselves, we can certainly put up some scores against the Rhinos. And yeah, that's I suppose one of the key points of their games this season. They've just got to be right. We're gonna get some scores in. See, can we hang with some teams? And one of these games, we're gonna get our first victory, because you know they're gonna win a game. The Stags, they're not. I can't imagine that they're going to exist as a winless team forever. Their first win is coming at some point, and yeah, I mean, you just don't want to be the team it happens to. No disrespect to the Stags, not saying that in a sort of disrespectful way, but it is like a history thing. You know, you don't want to be the side that are the first team to lose to a newly formed side. So I think they'll certainly be going in there with their tails up and motivated. You guys will 100% be going in there with your own motivations, and it'll make for a good game, I think.
Yeah. It will be able to really entertain. There's a few guys there that obviously used to be of Jets and Razorback previous that'll be coming down that, you know, be looking forward to seeing, having a chat with again as well. Haven't seen, obviously didn't get to play the Razorbacks game myself personally last year, so it'll be good to see a few of those guys. Little disappointed it's not in New Forge. It's the one of the grounds I still haven't had the chance to go up and play in. So it's one of them like that this season. I got the tick, you know, Derry off the list. I got to tick. Well, played in Mullingar in the preseason game last year, so I guess already did that. But you know what I mean. It's kind of on a little tour now of where I've got to play and where I haven't. So, be looking forward to obviously the game. I won't be giving a prediction, but Alex, do you want to?
Yeah, I think you guys will do it. I think the Rhinos will win, and they'll sort of get back to 2-2, sort of rectify it and get your season back to where you're kind of more aiming for, to be looking into them playoff spots. So yeah, I think Rhinos win.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. The last game of the weekend to have a look at is, of course, the Loud Mavericks heading down to Wexford, to Gorey, I should say, even, to take on the Wexford Eagles. This is a repeat, obviously, of your first game where you came out 44-6 on top. This is your double header sort of finish then this year against the Wexford team, who will be buoyant after their win against the Crusaders last week. Obviously, you guys are continuing your run after a dominant win on Saturday following the win I mentioned a couple of weeks before against the Eagles. So, you know, a quick turnaround for the guys, like you mentioned, Brendan, to heal his ankle. You know, I believe Dom hurt his hand. Hopefully he's all right as well. You know, it's tough. I don't know, Alex, is it tough for you guys in terms of not just them Loud, but like in general, when you see you have a double header against a team, would you rather have that double header done quickly like this in the space of 3 weeks? Or would you like, in the sense, to play at the start and maybe then at the end of the season to see where both teams are at?
Yeah, I understand the question. I don't like, personally, I don't care. I don't really care who I'm playing when I'm playing them. It's more just I'm more than happy to play football whenever I can. So to me, it doesn't matter. I think it probably makes sense to do a sort of the double header, to have it that it's starting end of the season, or sort of, you know, relatively further spaced away than what this example is. But I honestly, I don't really mind. The tape review won't have changed too much. So schematically, you won't be expecting it to be much different, which is when surprises can be sprung as well. So the Eagles could certainly have some surprises up their sleeve that they have been planning from the first iteration of this game. But yeah, for me, it doesn't really matter when the doubles are played. We're going down, I think, ready to play. We'll have plenty of lads down to fill in if we do have guys that are missing. We are blessed with a deeper squad than we've had in previous years, where injuries aren't as much of a concern to us. The Eagles have obviously they've come off their first win, so they'll be buoyed. They've already played us, and as I said, they gave us a good game, probably better than the scoreline suggests. They already know that they've got 6 points guaranteed going into the game, with Ty due to throw another pick six. So, you probably see the game start 6-0 to the Eagles.
Are you giving it
to?
Are you going to give this one to Luke again, or are you going to maybe give it to Trevor for 2 in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's already got he got one there last weekend as well. So, or was it someone else who got one this weekend? No, it was Trevor Smith got the pick six.
Trevor Smith
So there you go. I mean, yeah. So they are well versed in running it back. So that just plays into it definitely. They'll be buoyed and ready to come out and prove that they're better than the scoreline suggested. So I'm expecting, and as I said earlier, when you've played the Eagles, I'm expecting another tough physical game that I'll be feeling on Easter Sunday when I'm fucking hunting for eggs with my daughter around a garden. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Excellent.
Limping around the garden, watching the home videos, and 18 years time, and having my daughter like, why are you limping, Daddy? And it's like, a big man from Wexford.
Yeah, that's not a bad show. It's not a bad show. Predictions for this game. I'm sure, Alex, for you, you're going to go for a Mavericks win.
Yep.
I'm going to agree with you in that one. I'm going to go for a Mavericks win as well. I just, obviously, from seeing the team firsthand on Saturday, it's same tie, different jersey in terms of how clinical he is and how well run that offense is for the Mavericks. It's gonna be tough. It's tough against, like, we had the guts of over 30 there, and we struggled. For a team that's struggling for numbers with Wexford, it's gonna be a tough day for them. I have to go with a Mavericks win for them to go 3-0. As much as it pains me to say that after last week, what you did last week, but hey, we get over it. We'll still be friends after it. Don't worry about it. That's that. That is our edition of AFI Weekly done. Before we go, we should say that this show and every show this season is brought to you by Rain Rocks Web Design. They are the crew behind UCP.ie. Go to that right now for the latest standings and results for the AFI this year. We really appreciate all the work that the guys did for setting up this website. They did a fantastic job. And if you are looking for a website for your business, sports team, company, whatever it is, hit them up and just search Rain Rocks Web Design on Google. They'll be there. Get chatting to Dom and the crew there, and they will be able to help you out and help design your new website. Also, follow us on our socials at UnderCenterPod on Instagram and Twitter. That is where you'll find all the latest updates this weekend for all 3 games. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube now and you haven't already, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really helps us. Really helps us grow the show. Really helps us to grow the league as well. And that's what we all want to do at the end of the day, is start to make this league bigger and better. But Alex, enjoy the game this Saturday. More importantly, enjoy Easter Sunday as well. Hopefully you find all the Easter eggs minus the limp. And I hope to see you again then next Tuesday, where we'll be able to chat about all the fun that we had over Easter weekend.
Absolutely. Happy Easter to you and all the listeners out there.
Yeah. And who knows, we may even have an Easter miracle where a Malloy may rise from the dead just for this show, for this next week's show. We'll wait and see for that. But until next time, stay safe. Thank you very much for tuning in, and happy Easter.
Peace.